Fox News' obsession with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is officially beginning to get a little bit creepy, because just within the past 24 hours, they mentioned her name nearly 30 times, and I'm not exaggerating about this.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ocasio-Cortez,
Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria
right.
Ocasio-Cortez.
She's out.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Ocasio-Cortez, 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 Ocasio-Cortez,
Ocasio-Cortez.
Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Alexandria Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I decided to include myself in that clip because why not? So it's very clear that they are going out of their way to look for reasons to attack her and criticize her. And to be fair, not all of the mentions there were negative. Tucker Carlson seemed to agree with her when she called out Amazon. But for the most part, by and large, when Fox News talks about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're bashing her. But in an attempt to criticize her for any and every little thing she says or does, it's getting a little bit comical. They're starting to actually look ridiculous. So for example, this graphic has made its rounds around the internet because I don't think they realized how unintentionally hilarious it was when they made this, because they're describing pretty reasonable policies like free college and Medicare for all as, quote, radical ideas. And I think that Ocasio-Cortez's response really did sum it up perfectly. She said, "Oh no, they discovered our vast conspiracy to take care of children and save the planet." But believe it or not, those aren't even the dumbest attacks on her, because they literally attacked her for being poor. And again, I'm not exaggerating about this. They attacked her because she can't afford rent in DC, and they literally laughed at her.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she says that she's having a hard time with something. Do we have it now, or should I wait? Okay. Let me know when we have it. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says this: I have 3 months without a salary before I'm a member of Congress. So how do I get an apartment? Those little things are very real. She said this to the New York Times. What do you think of that?
It's very Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez to say this. I think her supporters like it. This is who she is. She comes from the Bronx. She's young, she's the youngest member of Congress. It's tough to get an apartment in D.C. I also think she's not alone. She might be the only one talking about it, but a lot of congressmen in Washington, D.C. say, given the cost of living there, it's not exactly the Washington.
I think that quote was preceded by a year and a half ago. I was tending bar in Brooklyn, or something, which is true, by the way.
Well, that's playing to her base. But the fact of the matter is, Washington, D.C. and the greater metropolitan area is the most expensive county in the world to live in America now. So I think what she's talking about is all of the money in Washington, all of the wealth in Washington, all of the power, and a little simple person like her from New York can't find a place to live. It is a brilliant political lie.
On the other hand, her resume that Shelby just mentioned about being from the Bronx, it turns out when you read deeper, she had a lot more formative years in Westchester County, New York, which is a little ritzier than the Bronx. I'm from New York. I don't want to throw stones at any boroughs or counties, but her resume doesn't always match up. And some of those shoots during the campaign, she had these multi-$1,000 outfits that could pay a month's rent in Washington, D.C. You're right. Well, I live in Washington. It's very expensive, but she's been all over the map on some of this stuff.
I don't think it gets any more elitist than that. To laugh at someone for being poor and not being able to afford rent in DC, if you're laughing at someone because of that, you're just an elitist prick. What normal person watching that thinks, oh yeah, how goofy of her to not be able to afford an apartment in DC when she was just a bartender last year? I mean, how on earth would this resonate with anyone who's not an elitist prick like you? I mean, to laugh at someone, to poor shame someone on national television, it's very Fox Newsy. One of them said, quote, "It is a brilliant political line. It's just a fact." She wasn't calculating like other politicians do, these focus group-driven, poll-minded politicians who don't say anything unless they had a focus group determine whether or not it would be beneficial for them. She just said it because it's true. So she thinks that this is Ocasio-Cortez playing politics. No, she's just stating the reality of the situation, that in order to become a member of Congress, it's really difficult unless you're already wealthy, unless you're already an elite. Now, additionally, one host even speculated that she doesn't have as humble as a background as she's been alluding to, and that's just idiotic to say because she was literally a bartender a year ago. I mean, do you think that she was just a bartender for the sake of being a bartender, so that way when she one day launches this political career, she could say, I was a bartender? I mean, the odds of her defeating Joe Crowley in the first place, they were stacked against her. So she was a bartender. So yes, she does have a humble background. She was a working class American. And this same host asserted, quote, she had these multi-$1,000 outfits that could pay a month's rent in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I'm calling bullshit because how could you possibly know that? And it's the same line of reasoning we often see and hear from Republicans. Jason Chaffetz was just recently talking about how maybe people would be able to afford healthcare if they just stopped buying those new iPhones every other year. And this is really the same line of reasoning here. He's saying, well, maybe she'd be able to actually afford rent if she stopped buying all of these multi-$1,000 outfits. You're full of shit. Nobody believes you. We don't believe that you know how much her outfit cost. And if you're such a fashionista, then maybe Fox News isn't the right platform for you. Maybe you should write for a style magazine like Variety or whatever. I don't know any style magazines, but you're in the wrong place if you honestly do know that much about fashion. Now, I do want to share Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's response to the Fox News anchors because I think that what she said summed it up perfectly. She states, 1, Fox News, why can't any of your anchors say my name correctly? It's been 5 months. 2, it is bizarre to see 1% salaried anchors laugh at the U.S. housing crisis. And 3, never purchased pricey clothes, plus always told my story, but repeating lies until they are believed is your thing. But by and large, what this clip made clear is that they are looking for reasons to attack her, any reason possible. They're willing to latch onto it, but in covering Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez this much, they're not only making themselves look ridiculous, but they're also inadvertently promoting progressive policy ideas, which helps us. I mean, who could forget the hilarious clip from Sean Hannity after she won her primary, where he talked about how scary her platform was.
This is the future. This is your modern Democratic Party. Cortez, who will likely win the general election in a Democratic district, is pushing for, single-payer universal health care, universal jobs, government-subsidized housing for everybody, tuition, free colleges. She wants to abolish ICE and, of course, impeach President Trump.
How tone-deaf and out of touch do you have to be to think that policies like, quote, women's rights and support seniors would somehow scare Americans? Look, as Sarah Lerner puts it, Fox News keeps accidentally designing new campaign ads for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And that's exactly what they're doing in essence. By talking about her, by going out of their way to demonize her, not only are they revealing how unreasonable they are, but they're unwittingly promoting our policy ideas for us. So you'd think that I'd be mad that they're constantly bashing Ocasio-Cortez, but all they're doing is boosting her profile, giving her more name recognition, and exposing the Fox News audience to progressive policy ideas.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.